Hello. I sure hope you came here to have some guy talk at you about books, because I'm deep in the reads and that's what the hell I do. So, I just finished this book called Germinal by Émile Zola, which is a French masterpiece from the 19th century about a coal miners' strike. Now, I want to draw your attention to this little character right up here. It's a penguin, and this is a penguin classic. And as of me finishing this book, I have now read all the penguin classics that I own, which you will see how much of an impressive feat that is when I show you the sheer enormity of my collection of penguin classics. But anyway, to celebrate me finishing all my penguin classics, I thought I would do the Penguin Classics tag, which was started by Steve Donahue to exemplify this reprint house and all of its wonderful qualities. So I'm going to take you through the ups and downs of this collection that I've kind of been starting, and yeah, we're just going to talk about it in the form of a numbered list of various questions. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Question 1. Penguin Classics are the best reprint volumes in the whole world. How many do you own? Now, part of me thinks that Steve Donahue made this tag so he could humble brag about how many Penguin Classics he owns, because he says he has, over 600, which I guess that's alright if you're, just starting out, but I have all of these. There's 8 of them. But let's not focus on the numbers too much. Let's go through these one at a time now. I have the Metamorphoses by Ovid. I have the Early History of Rome by Livy. I have the 12 Caesars by Suetonius. So these are my 3 ancient Roman works. Then I have the Confessions of St. Augustine. I have the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. I have the Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo and Germinal by Émile Zola. These are my 2 French classics, and they're both excellent. And then last but not least, we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. A very weather-damaged edition that looks like it was dredged straight out of the Yorkshire moors, and it's for that reason that I'm gonna hang on to it. So yeah, those are my 8 Penguin classics. They may not be a lot, but hey, at least I've read them all. Ha 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 ha. And then, if you're wondering, deep in the reads, what Penguin classic do you think you'll get next? Well, I don't know, but I have this huge-ass catalog to help me out. This is the Penguin Classics book, and normally it retails for like $60 Canadian, so I was like, there's no way I'm getting that shit. But then I saw this for like $10 at my local bookstore, like new, and I'm like, wow, they must be having a hard time selling these. So I snapped it up, and it's full of all these pictures and images, and it talks about like the history of Penguin Classics and all the many, many, many books that they reprint, all ordered by region and time period. So I don't know which Penguin Classic I'm going to buy next, but I am reading like a couple pages of this at a time, and it's giving me a good idea of just what's out there. Question 2. Penguins evolved 70 million years ago. What's your history with Penguin Classics? So, like most people, I didn't really pay attention to which reprint company was publishing the classics that I happened to be reading. It could have been Signet Classics or Wordsworth or Everyman's Library or Oxford, but the reason I started gravitating towards Penguin is mostly because they're so affordable. Because Penguin Classics has been around so long, there's a huge second-hand market. A lot of these I found just in giveaway bins. The most I spent on any of them was $10 Canadian for this brand new hardcover coffee table book, and then the rest were under $5. Not only that, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. Unlike something like Wordsworth, which is sort of notorious for having poor translations, the translations of Penguin Classics are very well received and acclaimed and whatnot. Not only that, but they have a bigger variety than other reprint houses. You can find weird books like the Domesday Book, which is an 11th century census report. And through watching Steve Donahue's Daily Penguin series of videos, I learned just so much about the scope and the breadth and the history of Penguin Classics. And so all those things combined are what has led me to cultivate this little collection here. Number 3. The Penguin Classics logo is a penguin, the world's most famous flightless bird. What's a classic that just didn't take flight for you? Ironically, I'm kind of spoiled for choice when it comes to classics that I do not like. I've talked about some of them on here before. For example, when I did that whole rant review of What is Art by Leo Tolstoy. And 2 of the books here have even ended up on my worst reads of 2022 video. But the one that I want to highlight for the sake of this is the Confessions of St. Augustine, which I just finished a little bit ago, but I started it months prior, because this took the patience of a saint to get through. So St. Augustine was living in the 4th century. He converted from his heathen ways when he was in his 30s, and so a good chunk of this book is just talking about his life, like how he had his miracle conversion and his sinful past, and how he got to rub elbows with all these notable Christians after he converted. But the problem is, he goes into philosophical diatribes for like most of this book, and it's like getting a fucking root canal. He's obsessed with semantics and constantly gets into these incredibly cyclical, repetitive language breakdowns. It's like that clip from SpongeBob SquarePants.
So you mean to say they've taken what we thought we think and make us think we thought our thoughts we've been thinking our thoughts we think we thought? I think?
Fuck you.
If I was still a Christian when I started this book, I would come out of this book believing there is no God, okay? This shit is unfucking bearable. So yeah, that's a Penguin classic that just didn't take flight with me. Question 4. The emperor penguin is the most recognizable species, but the Adelaide is everyone's favorite. What's your favorite penguin classic? This one's kind of tricky to answer because I know what my favorite novel is, but I don't happen to own it as a Penguin classic, even though I know it is in part of the collection. And that would be The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I own this vintage hardcover edition of it. But the books that I own that are actually in my collection, that are my favorites, I thought it was going to be Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, this book is absolutely excellent, and I thought, okay, I only have, like, Confessions and Germinal left to read, so surely those 2 aren't gonna top this. But then I'll be gosh darned if Germinal wasn't on the same level of awesome as Hunchback was. So I guess the French really knew how to write a fucking novel in the 1800s. Both of these books are epic in scope. They're about the struggle of, like, the marginalized and the outcast against the people that hold all the power in society. They're very intense. There's a cast of thousands, all these colorful characters. And, you know, there's things I like better from one book to the other in various ways. For example, I way prefer the character writing in Hunchback, but I think Germinal is way more suspenseful and gritty and intense to read. Like, it really affected me. But Hunchback of Notre Dame plays on your heartstrings a lot more. So I think they're both absolute masterpieces. Germinal doesn't get nearly enough attention. Hunchback is a classic for a reason, obviously. I've done a review on this one if you want to check that out, and I hope to do a review on Germinal in the coming months as well. So yeah, Grapes of Wrath is my favorite that I know is in the collection, and then the favorite penguins that I actually own are Hunchback and Germinal. Question 5. Penguin Classics began in 1946 with E.V. Rieu's translation of The Odyssey. What's your favorite book from 1946, or the 40s in general? I've only read 1 or 2 books from 1946. One was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which is a memoir about his experiences in the Holocaust. And then the other one is The Stranger, or The Outsider, by Albert Camus. Now, technically, this first came out in 1942, but the first edition in English came out in 46, so gosh darn it, I'm going to count it. Especially because out of the 2 books, I prefer The Stranger. It just kind of is more up my alley, I guess. But then from my favorite books from the 40s in general, as far as I know, is Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. And yeah, all 3 of the books I just mentioned, definitely worth checking out. And the last question is number 6. Penguin Classics tries to enshrine the classics of literature. Name some books you'd like to see enshrined. I definitely think Penguin Classics should consider putting out more modern nonfiction books, especially history and biography. Like, they already have tons of nonfiction in the collection, but it's all hundreds or even thousands of years old. And I know for a fact that a lot of history and biography books have become more recent classics, like William L. Shirer's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, for example. And then for biography, what about something like The Power Broker? This is a really important book that shows just how racist and classist cities in America are structured. So I'd love to see like a slimmed down, affordable version of this put out by Penguin Classics. And I realize that some of the books I mentioned are not old enough to really count as classics, but by the time they are old enough, I would love to see them entered into the Penguin Classics collection. Wow! Wasn't that a lot of fun? I finally got to the end of talking about this massive collection of Penguin Classics, which took my entire life to accumulate. But now it's time for you to do the talking by going down into my comments section and being like, hey, this is what I think of your opinion. This is why I agree or disagree with you. You can tell me what your favorite classics are. You can tell me what you think of some of the books that I've covered here today. And if you have a better reprint house that you want to tell me about, that you think is better than Penguin Classics, then leave.